In the world of high-altitude mountaineering, there are climbs and then there are legends. There are routes that are difficult, and then there are those that are just considered impossible. For decades, the direct west face of K2, the Savage Mountain, was firmly in that second category. It's a sheer, terrifying wall of rock and ice that skyrockets thousands of feet into the death zone. Many have looked at it, many have dreamed, but to this day, only one team has ever stood on its summit after climbing its full, brutal length. In 2007, a Russian team delivered the impossible. They climbed a route so ferocious, so unforgiving, that it has never been repeated. Why? Why has this monumental achievement remained a singular event? The answer isn't simple. It's a perfect storm of challenges so extreme that overcoming them requires a level of commitment that borders on superhuman. To understand why no one repeats the West Face, you have to understand the gauntlet the Russians ran. Because to understand this climb is to understand the absolute limit of human survival. And this is what they faced. Before we even get to the wall itself, we have to understand the men who climbed it. The 2007 Russian expedition, led by Viktor Kozlov, wasn't an ordinary group of mountaineers. It was a who's who of Russia's toughest climbers, many of them veterans of other legendary ascents like the North Faces of Everest and Janu. These were men forged in a different school of thought, one that prized collectivism, raw perseverance, and a willingness to wage what's known as siege warfare on a mountain. This wasn't a fast and light Alpine-style attempt. This was a war of attrition. The team arrived at base camp in early June 2007 and spent the next 2.5 months in a titanic struggle with the West Face. Their strategy was methodical and massive. Climbing in rotating groups of 4, they painstakingly fixed ropes along almost the entire route, establishing a chain of 7 camps up the seemingly vertical terrain. It was a monumental undertaking, a throwback to the great national expeditions of the past, but with one critical difference. They did it all without supplementary oxygen. The team included climbers like Alexei Bolotov, a 2-time Piolet d'Or winner, Gleb Sokolov, a veteran of solo ascents, and the indomitable pair of Pavel Shabalin and Ilyas Tukvatulin. These weren't just climbers, they were specialists in suffering, masters of endurance who knew that some mountains can't be finessed. They have to be overpowered through sheer, unrelenting will. This philosophy is maybe the first reason the route has never been repeated. The resources, in both people and time, are astronomical. It requires a national-level team of climbers willing to dedicate an entire season to a single project, where individual glory means nothing next to the collective goal. Who would actually reach the summit was a question left unanswered until the very end. What mattered was getting the ropes fixed higher, the next camp set, and pushing the line just one more pitch toward the sky. The West Face doesn't ease you in. It's hostile from the very first step. After the approach over the Savoya Glacier, the climbers immediately faced one of the most draining obstacles in all of mountaineering: deep, unstable snow. And this wasn't just a dusting. Reports from the expedition describe wading through snow up to their chests. Now try to picture what that actually means. It's not like walking through deep water. Every single step is a monumental effort. You heave your leg up, plunge it into the snow, and push, only to have the ground give way. You sink, burning enormous energy just to get back to where you started, let alone gain any height. It's like trying to swim up a 45-degree slope, but the medium is heavy, wet concrete threatening to set around you. And all this is done while carrying heavy packs at an altitude where your body is already starving for oxygen. But the physical drain is only half the battle. Deep, unconsolidated snow is the main ingredient for avalanches. The entire lower section of the route is a terrifyingly exposed maze of snow-filled couloirs, making it exceptionally avalanche-prone, a key reason no other team has tried a repeat. With every step, the climbers were not only fighting exhaustion, but the terrifying possibility that the entire slope could fracture at any moment. They were playing Russian roulette with the mountain, where the slightest change in temperature or one wrong step could be catastrophic. This constant, nagging threat wears you down psychologically. It frays your nerves until every decision is fraught with tension. This is the first filter of the West Face, a soul-crushing, dangerous slog that drains you before the real climbing even begins. If you survive the snowfields, the West Face finally reveals its true character. The main event is a gigantic rock buttress, a fortress of mixed rock and ice that rises from around 6,600 meters to over 8,150 meters. This is the heart of the climb, and it's here that the West Face lays down its challenge. The average steepness of this section is between 45 and 60 degrees, with stretches of sheer vertical rock. This is the world of mixed climbing, a brutal discipline that demands mastery of both rock and ice techniques. Climbers wear crampons and wield ice axes, but they have to perform delicate, technical moves on solid rock. Imagine trying to rock climb a sheer cliff, but instead of flexible, sticky climbing shoes, you're wearing rigid, spiked boots. Instead of using your fingertips to feel for tiny holds, you're swinging sharp metal tools, hoping they'll catch in a crack or on a small patch of ice. Members of the Russian team said the climbing here pushed them to the absolute edge of their physical limits, comparing its difficulty to the infamous north face of Janu, one of the most formidable walls in the Himalayas. One climber, Nikolai Totmianin, simply stated that for nearly every alpinist, the rock climbing was on the edge of their possibilities. This wasn't hyperbole. This was a verdict from veterans of the world's hardest climbs, admitting they were facing something truly extreme. The team had to solve this vertical puzzle piece by piece, fixing thousands of meters of rope up this terrifyingly exposed wall. They placed their camp too right below the main buttress and began the slow, arduous work of pushing the line up. This section alone is a world-class climb, but when you place it in the thin, cold air above 7,000 meters on K2, it becomes a challenge of extraordinary difficulty, demanding not just elite skill, but the ability to execute it flawlessly when your body and mind are screaming for rest. The challenges of the West Face are cumulative, with each one compounding the last. But waiting high on the mountain above 8,000 meters in the desolate, oxygen-starved landscape of the Death Zone lies the route's most notorious feature, a vertical rock step, which included a 3-meter or roughly 10-foot overhang. Let's pause to put this into perspective. The Death Zone is the altitude where the human body can no longer acclimatize. With so little oxygen, your body is literally dying. Brain cells perish, digestion stops, and the risk of frostbite and edema is acute. Every minute spent here brings you closer to a complete system shutdown. In this environment, survival itself is the only real goal. Just putting one foot in front of the other is a Herculean task. Now imagine facing a technical rock climbing crux here. The Russians, on their first summit attempt on August 10th, were stopped dead by this very obstacle. After battling through chest-deep snow, a group of climbers reached this final rock wall at 8,500 meters. Exhausted and unable to find a way through the vertical step, they were forced to retreat. It had to be a soul-crushing moment, to be turned back just a few hundred feet from the top, defeated by a single piece of rock. This is the psychological crux of the climb. It's not just a physical barrier, it's a gatekeeper, a final test of will placed at the most vulnerable point of the ascent. To climb a vertical to overhanging rock step at this altitude without supplemental oxygen is an act of almost unimaginable difficulty. It requires hauling your entire body weight up, executing precise movements with your feet, all while your muscles are screaming for oxygen they can't get. The physical power required is immense, but the mental fortitude is even greater. You have to fight the lethargy, the confusion, and the overwhelming instinct to just give up. For 10 long days, storms pinned the team down. Finally, on August 21st, Andrei Mariev and Vadim Popovich made another attempt. This time, they found a way. They overcame the rock step that had defeated their teammates and pushed on, reaching the summit at around 12:50 p.m. Their success was a testament to pure tenacity. The very existence of such a severe technical challenge so high on the mountain is probably the single greatest reason for no repeat ascents. It ensures that only the most gifted and powerful climbers could even contemplate the route, and even then, success is anything but guaranteed. The specific obstacles, the snow, the rock wall, the overhang, are the individual battles. But the overarching reason the West Face remains unrepeated is the war. The 2007 Russian ascent was a prolonged siege lasting over 2.5 months. This sheer duration is a weapon of the mountain. It grinds teams down. Living on a high-altitude peak for that long is a monumental strain. Climbers constantly shuttle loads, fix ropes, and establish camps, only to retreat to rest before heading back up. They spent numerous nights in the death zone over the course of the expedition, a level of exposure that is almost unheard of. One pair, Pavel Shabalin and Ilyas Tukvatulin, spent 3 nights at or above 8,150 meters before their own successful summit push on August 22nd. This demonstrates an incredible capacity for suffering. This style of climbing is brutally effective but also immensely taxing. It requires a huge logistical footprint, a large cohesive team, and an almost fanatical devotion to the goal. K2's notoriously unpredictable and violent weather is another enemy in this war. The Russian team was repeatedly forced back by storms, including for 10 straight days between their first and second summit attempts. And those periods aren't restful. They're spent in cramped tents, listening to the wind howl, worrying about supplies, and wondering if you'll ever get another shot. This is the cumulative effect of the West Face. It's not just one crux, it's the relentless combination of deep snow, world-class technical climbing, a death zone overhang, and the attritional nature of a multi-month siege. It demands a specific Russian-style approach rarely seen in modern mountaineering, which often favors smaller, faster, alpine-style ascents. But as even other elite climbers have noted, an alpine-style ascent of the West Face is incredibly dangerous. The objective hazards are just too great. The Russian siege was arguably the only way it could have been climbed, but it's a style so demanding that finding a team with the skill, funding, and unwavering commitment to replicate it has so far proven impossible. In the years since 2007, the Russian route on the West Face has remained silent. While other routes on K2 see attempts and summits, the West Face stands apart, a testament to its own ferocious difficulty. The route has simply never been repeated. Its reputation is that of one of the hardest, if not the hardest route on the world's second highest peak. Why has no one come back? The answer is a mix of everything the Russians faced. First, the sheer scale and commitment required for a siege is a massive financial and logistical barrier for most expeditions. Second, the technical requirements are off the charts, filtering out all but a handful of the world's most elite alpinists. And third, the objective dangers, especially the constant threat of avalanches, make the route incredibly risky. The face's allure remains, but it is a fatal one. In 2024, the celebrated Japanese alpinists Kazuya Hiride and Kenro Nakajima, winners of multiple PLA d'Or awards, began their own attempt at a new route on the West Face in pure alpine style. Hiride had called it the culmination of his life's work. Tragically, both climbers were lost on the mountain during their attempt, a heartbreaking reminder of the face's lethality. Their deaths underscore the immense respect and danger the face commands. The 2007 Russian Direct remains an outlier. It was the product of a specific moment, a convergence of a generation of incredibly tough Russian climbers, the national backing for a massive siege, and a collective philosophy of putting the objective above all else. They didn't just climb the West Face, they waged a campaign against it. They succeeded, and every member of the team returned safely to base camp. It was a stunning display of ability and teamwork. The West Face of K2 is more than just a climb. It's a monument to the outer limits of what's possible. The 2007 Russian ascent wasn't just about reaching a summit, it was about answering a question. The question was whether a team could overcome a challenge so immense, so stacked against them, that it bordered on the irrational. They answered with a resounding yes. But in doing so, they also revealed the price of admission. The cost is measured in months of effort, thousands of meters of rope, and pushing the body and mind to the breaking point and beyond. One of the Russian climbers said that the route combined the technical difficulties of Janu's North Face with the extreme altitude of Everest's North Face, a uniquely brutal challenge. Perhaps the West Face will be repeated one day, but until that day comes, the 2007 Russian route remains a singular achievement. It stands as a stark reminder that on the world's most savage mountain, there are still lines that have only been crossed once. It is a legacy carved in rock and ice, the story of a team of iron-willed men who walked through a gauntlet that no one else has dared to enter since. They climbed the unclimbable, and in doing so secured their own unique place in the wild history of mountaineering. What do you think is the single biggest challenge of the West Face? The chest-deep snow, the technical rock wall, or the overhang in the death zone? Let us know in the comments below. And for more stories from the edge of the world, don't forget to subscribe.